Welcome to Thriller Bitcoin. Welcome to Thriller Bitcoin.
She turned my vinyl into ashtrays, but she don't even smoke. An expensive way to play an impractical joke. An unhealthy dose of reality to bring me back down from my high horse that I've been riding around. She don't wanna talk like a ration on a door. She hired herself away and joined a heartbreak code. Well, you gone and proved your point now. You got my attention. So say your piece while you can, and we'll have an intervention. 'Cause logic's hard to come by when you're blinded by tears, and rationale don't mean a thing when you can't face your fears. But she don't wanna talk like a ration on a dog. She'll lock herself away, join a heartbreak code.
I think I released my first song at the end of 2022, and it feels like forever ago because things move so quickly. So much has happened last year. But no, I started doing music, at the age of like 5 or 6. Started doing all classical stuff really, and that was like my foundation. And then when I got to sort of teens, I picked up a guitar.
Did your parents encourage you with the I feel like there's always one person that encourages people with the creativity stuff. Was there somebody in your life that did that?
Yeah. So both my parents are musical, but my dad especially, he plays guitar, he writes songs. So, I was hearing him play from a very young age, and I thought it was really cool that he wrote his own songs, and I wanted to do a similar thing. So he taught me a few chords on the guitar, and then I took it from there and kind of taught myself the rest. And didn't start writing really until I was like, late teens, and I had something to say. And like all, early songs that anyone writes, they were pretty shitty, and I hope that they never get heard again. But
no, I'm pretty sure they're great, dude. You're an amazing songwriter. I'm sure they're great.
So yeah, and then just kind of I've been honing my craft ever since, and just building up a fan base, mainly here in the UK. And it's just a slow grind, you just got to, the way I want to build my career, I'm taking a low time preference. I'm trying to do it in the right way. And I'm trying to build a fan base 1 gig at a time, 1 tour at a time. And I guess sort of last year really was my first headline ticketed, tour up the UK with a band. And, I guess COVID and all that stuff knocked me back a few years because it's like everything just disappeared, all the work went, and it's kind of like it took the wind out of everyone's sails. So because it's kind of a momentum thing, you build a momentum every year, and then it was quite hard starting again after that. But this year's looking like it's going to be exciting. A lot of stuff in the diary. But yeah, and then I kind of like got into the value for value stuff at the end of 22. And it's funny, like it's taken me a while to realize that it's still so early. Like I thought it was bigger than it is, and I had a bit of FOMO, and I was like, oh, everyone's going to be doing this in like 6 months from now. And
but you're like the Bitcoin musician though, Joe. No, seriously, like who else do I know that is doing it at your level though? I mean, tell me, maybe there's other artists, but eventually people are just going to say like, you're the guy who kind of kicked this whole thing off.
I don't know. I guess like Ainsley and Just Loud with that concert they did got a lot of attention. It was really successful, which is awesome. And they're doing great stuff over in the States. But yeah, I didn't really have a plan to be associated with this. I just saw the idea and I thought like, this makes complete sense. And I've got to get behind this because, you know, myself included, but I know every other artist that I speak to are just so disenfranchised with the way that the industry is. And everyone knows the problems, but doesn't really have a solution, or doesn't have, you know, any idea of a way out.
Can you talk about that? Can you talk a little bit about what those kind of, you know, those friction points are for an artist or a musician as talented as you?
Yeah. So when you're an independent artist, you kind of like acting as everything really. Your own label, your own publisher, you know, you have to produce the album or whatever you're doing yourself. And it's kind of like, it's a strange thing where at the end of the line, when you have the final product, it's a weird paradigm now. You're only going to make any money back on that investment. And, you know, albums aren't cheap to make. Like this last album that I put out cost me a lot of money. So you're kind of wondering, like, how am I going to make this back as an independent artist without a big label and a big budget behind me? So the main way really is just still physical merchandise, like selling albums at shows, selling t-shirts and stuff like that. And that's great, but that's only got so much reach. Like you can only obviously sell to your potential audiences, how many people you can attract to your live gigs. And then as soon as it's online as well, it's technically free as soon as it touches the internet. But then you can't not be on the internet. You can't not put it on Spotify. You can't not put it on YouTube because you're massively curtailing like your potential audience as well. So it's a double-edged sword in that way. But basically, this new technology is just offering a new way for people to release their music on their own terms for the first time. And it's like fan to artist, you know, direct peer-to-peer payments. So it just clicked for me. As soon as I got that, I was like, right, how do I promote this as much as I can? How do I get the word out? How do I get other people fired up about it? I'm always tweeting, and I'm on, you know, Nostr, and I'm tweeting about it, and I'm saying, I'm kind of like yelling at other artists, like, come on, get on this. I bet a lot of people think I have some sort of affiliation with Wavlake because I just talk about them so much, but I'm like, I'm not. I just love what they're doing. They're doing great stuff, and I want to champion them because I think, you know, every artist shouldn't toil and struggle away and spend all this money producing incredible art for Spotify to take it all.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, just speaking for myself, like, you know, I tried doing music stuff like in my late teens and early 20s, and we did a little bit of traveling, and we released a couple EPs and stuff like that. Then I moved to Austin and tried to get involved in the music scene here, and was able to help out people and all that kind of stuff. And very similar to what I do now. It was just like helping out other people with their projects. And I released a couple like solo albums with some great musicians. And it was like over time I realized, I was like, oh, like I have to take it another level that I just didn't think I could do. It just felt insurmountable. So to see you doing what you're doing and you like get people behind you like myself and other people in the space, it's really inspiring because it's like, yes, we can finally give the artists the freedom and the recognition and the money that they deserve. So,
yeah. And what kind of excites me, it's still really early days. And I don't want to, when I talk about this to other people and other artists, I don't want to make any false promises about how much anyone can make from this because it's still very new. But what I think it offers in the long term is a way for the middle ground that's been lost for like the mid-tier artists, not the huge stadium artists, and you know, not artists sort of playing pubs and little bars, but like the sort of mid-tier artist that's kind of disappeared because they've been squeezed out of the game because like that revenue that used to come from the recorded side of the music has disappeared basically. So now it's all about live, you know, and it's great. It's great to tour. It's great to gig. But if we can bring back the actual recorded music itself is almost now it's like seen as a lost leader. You put an album out for free or whatever, like just not expecting to get anything back from it in hope that people will listen to it and want to come to your live show. So if we can bring back that middle ground and kind of like bring it back into sort of like a realistic perspective for artists that are starting out, like if you can get, you know, 5,000 to 10,000 over like your lifetime, if you can get like 5,000 core fans, like really diehard fans, which isn't like an impossibility, like that's an achievable goal. If you can get that many people and they can be just zapping you on Wavlake or whatever they use, you know, a few dollars a year, that's a living for, you know, you can make that work. And it suddenly brings back a realistic model again for people and gives young artists hope, you know, that they can actually make a career with it. So that's the most exciting thing for me. It's not like I'm thinking anyone's going to be buying like private jets with the sats that are sent to them, but it's just bringing back that middle ground that's been lost because of the Spotify's and that kind of thing.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
Yeah, it totally makes sense. And I think this is where I think you were kind of ahead. You were kind of ahead, and you kind of saw it before a lot of other artists. And it's interesting because like me, like doing this podcasting gig part time, and you know, you make anywhere between 50 to 100,000 sats per month, right? Just passively, not doing anything other than just releasing podcasts every week. And I would imagine like if you held on to that over the course of a year or two, that's some serious Bitcoin, right? That's some serious Bitcoin that if you have that HODL mentality can turn into, you know, a lot of, you know, future fruit that for you and your family or whoever. So that's kind of my mindset when it comes to doing this stuff. And I think you totally get that. And I think once artists understand the low time preference approach to creating art or creating music in their lives, and like you said, over time, maybe it won't happen in the first year or even the second year, but by the third or fourth year of you continuously doing this, being consistent the way you are, it's going to be like, oh, wow. So you have all this Bitcoin that you were able to hodl, and now you're just living off the fruit of your labor. So, yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. I forgot where I was going to go with the next point. Sorry, carry on.
No, that's what I was going to say. I think when I first saw your post was on Stacker News, it got shared on Stacker News. And then that's when I saw it. I was like, Keon, did you see this? Like, this guy's doing this on like Fountain with like RSS, and it's pretty amazing. And then Wavlake got introduced and all that stuff. And it was really cool because now you have some musicians and great engineers and creative artists like Sam, like now really helping people like yourself. And to me, that's where I think it's going to be where the real magic is going to happen. I think this next cycle that we're coming in, I think more people like yourself are going to get it. And it's just going to be inevitable that it just hits the mainstream culture. So,
yeah, no, I totally agree. And what I was going to say before was that that I'm not trying to sell people on the idea of Bitcoin itself. I'm just saying that this way of releasing your music is just one extra platform, one extra thing you have to do when it comes to releasing it. And you have the potential to start earning, you know?
Yeah, give us a strategy behind that. Like, let's say you just released that Jetsons song. What was your strategy behind it? Because I know you ranked in the top 10 at Wavlake. So, like, what was your strategy behind that release?
So basically, and I'm going to do this going forward with all my releases from now on. It's just, you know, release it early on Wavlake and let people have early access to it on there and all RSS platforms, any value for value platform, basically. And I think that strategy has to come from the artist, because it's not going to necessarily come from the fans, right? The fans are going to just go where their favorite artist music is. And if the artist turns around and says, look, guys, Spotify's not giving me anything. Like, I appreciate that you're listening to my music, but hey, if you listen over here on this platform, you've got the potential to send me a little bit of value if you like what I do. And it's definitely going to be a grassroots thing. It's going to come from the independent artists first. Like the labels are going to be the last, I think, to get on board with this, unless it gets really serious really quickly. Because they've all got a stake in Spotify now. You know, they're bought into it. So yeah, it's definitely going to be grassroots, and it's going to come from the artists, the independent artists. But that's great. You know, we want to get in there first. So
yeah, that's true. How do you think the live shows will kind of play a part in this? Do you think there'll be more zapping that happens during live shows and stuff like that? Like, how do you think that will play out?
I think the live thing's still really unexplored. And it was great to see what Ainsley and Just Loud did the other day. That was an incredible amount of Bitcoin that they got sent with that. So that's just showing the potential of it straight away. It's really like untapped market, and it's just like ripe to be explored. But I'm really interested in the live value idea. Like even, I think it'd be so cool to have a festival. I know you're speaking to Sam and Michael about this, and if
somebody will do it, right? Somebody has to do it. I don't want to do it, but I will do it if no one does it.
Yeah, and like if you could, if you said to people, hey, you can come along for free, come along to the festival for free.
Oh, wow.
Go to each stage and watch the artist. They'll have a QR code behind them. And if you like them, hey, like you're going to be socially not pressured, but like we're going to be looking at you saying, look, the artists aren't here for free. Like zap them if you like what they're doing. And I think that could be really interesting, and people maybe you could make it public, see how much people are being sent, maybe not, but I don't know. I think there's a lot to be explored there.
Yeah, even if you did like a battle of the bands, just like in your local town or something, right? And you just have whoever had the most sats at the end of the night won the. I don't know if you remember those, but I remember those growing up. There would be like a battle of the bands kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, a battle of the bands with sats being sent. That'd be a cool idea. Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, because it makes you wonder. Like, yeah, you come in, everything is just denominated in Bitcoin, and then you're zapping sats there. Even the artists are coming on their own dime, and then they get paid out with the zaps that they earn on the show. It really could be a value for value festival. Totally.
Yeah, you have splits with all the bands. Four-piece bands.
Oh yeah, even with the ticket sales too, right? Like if you did ticket sales, you could totally do the splits with that as well too.
Yeah.
Gosh, we're so early.
Yeah.
Gosh. Yeah, it makes you wonder like what the possibilities are. Yeah, so let's switch gears. Let's talk a little bit about the musician side of everything and your creative process, because that's the stuff that I'm really fascinated with when it comes to musicians and other creatives. Is like, what's your process, Joe? Like when you sit down to write a song, like let's talk about that. I want to know if you want to tell us your alpha on that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So I get this question a lot, and it's kind of, I don't know. I used to write a lot back in the day. Like I was writing all the time. And now I kind of only write when I get inspired, or like I feel like I've got something to say. I don't try and just write for the sake of writing. I don't know if that's the right approach. Maybe I should try and force myself to write more, because it is kind of like a muscle, like working a muscle, like the creative part of your brain. But no, I wait till an idea hits me. And then, a lot of the time, the lyrics and the melody will come together, and that's when the best songs are written, I think. And I like to write a song. Well, I like to try and start writing a song without an instrument, either in my hand or side of the piano, because then the melody is just free to go where it wants to go, and it's not getting influenced by any chords or any harmony behind it. So, I mean, I love co-writing also. I've done most of my co-writing out in Nashville when I've been out there, because it's a big co-writing culture out there. Not so much over here, but it's really hit and miss with co-writing. But it's fun, it's fun just to hang with people and like get to know people. And then when you do get something great, it's like you're both buzzing off each other and you can share the excitement of it. So yeah, that's kind of it really.
Do you carry like a notebook around or anything like that, or your phone? Like do you do memos, stuff like that? Or
it goes into the phone as a voice memo normally, or in the notes in the phone. And annoyingly, like I seem to get like good ideas when I'm either in a public place, or I'm like public transport, or I'm driving or something, and I've got to like keep singing the song till I get where I'm going. Not trying to record it while I'm driving, crash the car.
You're like waiting in line at a coffee shop and you're like singing behind somebody.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, trying to be discreet about it. Yeah.
Where do you think those ideas come from? Because I always find this fascinating with like other creatives and where they get their ideas. And do you think there's just some higher power that's connected to a lot of us? Because it does seem like there's different ideas will pop up to different people across the world sometimes. What do you think that is?
There's something quite mysterious about like songwriting sometimes, where I know it sounds kind of strange, but some songs I've written, I feel like I've just had to write down. I've not been thinking about it. They've like come to me and I've just had to quickly like scroll them down, and it's almost been finished in like one go. And I'm like, how the hell did that happen? You know? And it's kind of like, I sort of think like the song was given to me in a way, or it was just there and I just happened to catch it. And I really didn't have to try for it. But I could probably count on one or two hands, like the times that has happened. Doesn't happen enough, annoyingly. But I don't really know. It's a part of it is tapping into like some sort of subconscious, you know, thing. Mm-hmm. And I find that sometimes when I'm like drifting off to sleep, I'll have a good idea. And I'm wondering, is that because my mind's really relaxed and it's like kind of falling asleep and there's like these ideas that are just churning on their own? So I don't know. Maybe there's something to that.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know Rick Rubin always talks about that kind of stuff. Like there's just like this zeitgeist that some people just have a better antenna to. And but yeah. Are there any artists out there that when you look at like their type of career or how they did things, is there any way that you get inspired from? Or
when I look at how they did things, I don't know. I don't know like of any examples that spring to mind. I mean, like I don't want to be too like boring and cliche and just say I'm not like a massive fan, but like Ed Sheeran, I appreciate his like tenacity, and I don't know like if he was as a kid was just super gifted, or if he just like worked his ass off until he got where he, you know, could write how he could write, and it connected with people. And he was apparently he was playing like 300 shows a year and stuff in the early days.
Wow.
So when you kind of look at that, you think, well, fair dues, you know, someone that's been around that much and grafted that hard, it's kind of like, that's quite inspiring. And there's, I mean, I guess there's two different types of musician. The one that's like just always constantly grafting away, and then you have some people that is really natural with it and can just write and they don't know why, and it's kind of like just a, you know, superpower that's given to them somehow.
Yeah, there's this I forget which book it was, but the Beatles actually did like the first 2 or 3 years, they did over like, it was like 1,000 shows or something. It was some ridiculous amount. And I guess one of the managers, one of them close to him said, "Oh, like why were they so popular? Why is because they spent like 1,000 shows, or they did it like 1,000 shows in like 2 or 3 years in the very beginning, in the early days, just grinding it out."
Well, they kind of like cut their teeth in Hamburg, didn't they? I guess, and and that's where they formed. Like that's how they were so tight, because they were playing like 8 hours a day or something ridiculous every day. And then when it came to them recording in the studio, they could record an album in a day and it would be near perfect. Like, because like back in the day, you got to remember it was different, where tape was expensive. When people were cutting to tape, you couldn't start editing, and you couldn't, you know, keep trying again and again. Well, they could when they got to the end of their career, but in the early days, they just had to like get it as close as they could in one take, and they'd all be in the same room. And they could, I think like something crazy, like they got through an album in one day or a couple of days, and that's just a testament to how good they were. But that just comes from doing it all the time.
Yeah, definitely capturing lightning in a bottle. Yeah. What sorts of different directions do you see yourself going in creatively, as far as like just with your music, or just with your process this year? Like what are you looking forward to as far as that? Or are you going to keep it the same?
So the Jetsons was a real one-off. Like, I don't think I'm going to go in that direction sound wise. I kind of like wanted to write a song that was had, you know, a tip of the hat to Bitcoin, with Bitcoin messages in it, and Nostr references in it as well. But, you know, not explicit. You know, anyone that was in the space would know what I was talking about, but anyone else could just enjoy it as a song, sort of thing. And I knew that I wanted it to be a bit more poppy and more produced, so I got a producer in on that, and he handled most of the stuff. I just played the guitar and sang. And it was interesting because I've not worked like that before. I've always been in the studio with a band around me, and we've always sort of like worked out the arrangements and everything. And I was very hands off with the Jetsons. I was like, this is a song, these are the lyrics, and I kind of want it to sound like this. Gave him a couple of references, and he just went and did it. And he got exactly what I had in my mind. So he did a good job. But I think going forward, I've already started writing what I think is going to be the next album.
Nice.
I don't know. I think it's going to be more folky than the other one. The other one was my first album was quite country. And yeah, it's too early to say.
Are you thinking through like how you're going to do it live and stuff? Does that come into your creative process when you're creating an album or songs like that, or no?
Yeah, so I kind of have to be. The songs I put out like have to stand up just with me and the acoustic, because at the end of the day, like, it's expensive to take a band on the road with you. So for the next few years at least, I'm going to be doing most of the shows on my own, just with my acoustic guitar. So the songs have to work in that setting. And normally when they've been written that way, you know, if unless you just throw 1,000,001 things on it in the studio, it's still going to sound, you know, pretty good with just an acoustic guitar. So yeah, I mean, I think that's how it's going to be in the next album. It'll be able to work equally as well, just with an acoustic, but it's just going to be enhanced by what the musicians do with it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's always going to be cool. Then you get different experiments can come out from that kind of session or live, right? Because you don't know how they're going to interpret it live and stuff.
I like having this. I like gigging the songs for quite a while to let them bed in, and maybe a few things will change. Maybe I'll get some feedback on them, and it's quite good as well. Like, I think maybe with the next album, if I've got the resources to do it, is just spend a little longer in the studio with it, and maybe spend a bit longer thinking about the arrangements for it, because, you know, studio time's expensive. So when you're in there, you're always looking at the clock and thinking like, right, we've got to get this done. So the last album, I kind of had in my head exactly how it was going to be, and went in and we just did it in a very short space of time. But it'd be quite nice maybe with the next one to take a bit of a breather when we're in there and, you know, figure out, maybe let the musicians chime in with some arrangement ideas and see where it takes us. But who knows? We might record it later this year. It might be next year. I'll see.
I've seen a lot of really cool stuff come out of YouTube lately, where it's almost like they're doing a live concert, but inside of a house, or maybe it's a place that near their home or something. Like, is that a new trend that started, Joe, or is that something that's just slowly taken off? Because I know I don't know if you see that.
You mean like sofa concerts? Like
yeah.
House concerts. Yeah. I think there's a thing called Sofa Sounds. Is that an American thing? Didn't that come from?
Yeah. I've been to one of those before, but I've seen more and more musicians and artists and bands like do something from their living room, or they'll do a concert that'll premiere. So
it'll be from like their own house or whatever.
Yeah. I've seen more and more of that lately. I guess once COVID kicked off, it like that kind of took its own life form. What do you think about stuff like that? Do you think that's yeah?
I don't know. Like, when all that was happening during COVID, I kind of like was a bit late to that, and I thought, I'm not going to start doing that because everyone's just probably sick of live streams by now. You know, it's got so saturated. And I think I tried it. I think I tried it once and I didn't like it, because the weird thing is you need that audience connection as the artist, like on stage. You need to hear the clap at the end of the song, and you need to be able to like talk to the audience and maybe even have a bit of banter. But when there's just nothing there and you're singing into a webcam, I don't know, it feels weird to me. I couldn't get into it. It wasn't for me. But I mean, I don't know, maybe we'll see more stuff popping up like that, especially if you can do it in a value for value way, like plug in Lightning into it. And I don't know. I can see that take.
Totally. So I know you said you're going to be going on tour this year. Are you going to go to like all the events here in the Bitcoin space? Or are you how are you looking through the year as far as like traveling and touring and stuff like that? Just so that people can know and maybe get tickets ahead of time.
So I've been invited along to the Bitcoin Atlantis in Madeira.
Nice.
Which is really exciting. Everyone seems like they're going to that conference. So there's a music festival on the Saturday night, which I think is the 2nd of March. And Theo Katzman from Wolfpack is headlining, which is pretty cool. We're also playing, me and my band are playing. There's a local band called Napa that's playing, and the Higher Lows also playing. So that should be really cool. I'm in talks with them about potentially live streaming that in a value for value way, kind of like what Ainsley did and Just Loud did with the concert the other week. Because I was like, it makes perfect sense at a Bitcoin conference that's got a music festival. Let's try and plug it into all these podcasting 2.0 apps, and get it streamed. So that should be exciting. There could be the potential of Nashville in June.
Let's go.
I can't really say anything about that because I've not really made any plans. But
dude, if you played at the Bitcoin Park, man, gosh, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, that'd be amazing. I think it only started after I was last there. I was last there in 2018. So yeah, if I go back, I'm definitely going to swing by there and pop in.
Odell, if you're listening, let Joe play at Bitcoin Park.
Any day.
It would just be cool. Like, or even if it's not near, but it's near there or somewhere around town, just like let the Bitcoiners know we'll all show up because everybody's going to be there that week for the conference anyway, Yeah,
it seems like Nashville's sort of like the second place after Austin, right?
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
But I was like, when I saw that, I was like, country music and Bitcoin coming together. That's just too good.
Yeah. And then after that, where are you thinking? Just because you're out in you're across the pond, right?
Yeah. So I've got a tour in April, a UK tour. So if any UK plebs are listening to this, have a look on the website. I want some Bitcoiners in the crowd. That'd be cool. And then I'm planning a tour again in September. I'm just finishing that up at the moment. And I'm sure I'll be back in Europe as well, the Netherlands at some point next year. Probably supporting the band that I was supporting last year. So it's looking busy. So, I mean, I don't know, maybe some more conferences will pop up. I just want to go and play as much as I can and just meet people and experience it. Because I think the next couple of years are going to be pretty wild.
Yeah, hopefully. Totally. It's totally going to be wild.
I think, I really think that value for value as an idea is going to start seeping through the culture, and it's going to, when people really start getting it, it's going to blow up in a good way, So, I mean, it's crazy. Like I said before, just looking back at 2023, how far these podcasting 2.0 and value for value apps like Wavlake have come along. Like if you just said, when I first uploaded my first song to Fountain, that I don't think Wavlake was even around then, but someone has said, oh, this time next year, there's going to be a music platform that does this, and they're going to have an app on, Android and iOS, and you're going to be able to just zap people from the app. I'd have been like, what? So it's pretty cool to see how quickly that's come on. So I don't know what's going to happen in the next couple of years, but it's going to be pretty cool.
Yeah, I suspect just back channel chatter. I suspect either one of the big three will do the value for value stuff, whether it's Spotify, Tidal, or even Apple. But I suspect that's going to happen within the next 7 to 14. Because honestly, they'll get left behind, and that's just the truth.
I think we're kind of like, we'll know that we're winning when they have to sort of bend the knee and like give in to that and just incorporate it, you know.
Because the honest truth is like music is culture. I mean, music, art, all that stuff defines culture. And when talented musicians like yourself and artists like that, like when they start using these new type of innovative solutions for their art, other people see you and they're like, that's cool. I want to do that too. Other artists see you and say, oh, that's cool. I want to do that too. And then before you know, there's a whole different type of people, groups, fans, whatever you want to call them, that want to be a part of that. And that's, I mean, we've seen it with the iPod. You know, we saw it in the early days with that. And we saw it again when Apple purchased Beats. It's because they needed the culture. And the same thing's going to happen. They're either going to get left behind and lose the culture, or it's just the hard truth. It's like, if you look at history, it's just the hard truth.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. I mean, it's going to be interesting when it kind of gets to a certain size. Like with it, I guess I've been thinking, you know, with value for value, and like even things like Nostra as well, like zaps and boosts. It's always going to have to be, you'll probably know more about this than me. And I know you had Tony on your last episode. Yeah. And you touched on this, and I thought it was really good that you brought it up. But like, to send really small amounts of Bitcoin, it needs to be custodial. Like, because you can't, you know, you couldn't zap a new user 21 sats or whatever, because it wouldn't, you'd have to open a lightning channel. If you were trying to do it in a non-custodial way, right? You'd have to open a lightning channel, which would cost a certain amount of, you know, 10,000 sats.
According to Tony, it takes 100K sats.
Yeah. So straight off the bat, like it's all going to have to be custodial. I guess like looking out quite far, like it's not a problem at the moment, but looking out far ahead when there's tens of thousands, maybe even hundreds of thousands of artists all using these platforms, does that start to become an issue? Or like, could there be like a Fediment thing between where like maybe Wavlake, Fountain, Get Albi, like all these wallets have like a federated thing between them. So if you're sending things back and forth, you know, you're still doing it in a trust minimized way.
Yeah.
Rather than it all being fully custodial and all the sats just being on like one person's node or one company's node or whatever. I don't know. That's just something I think about every now and again. It's like a very long-term thing to think about. But
yeah, but you as an artist should be thinking about like how you're going to be paid and the money and the value that you're worth. I think for me, I'm always like a wait and see kind of guy. Like I'm always just like, because I hang out with nothing but devs and experimenters and creatives and stuff like that. So a lot of this stuff is new, and for me, I've just seen enough to where I'm like, okay, cool. Let's just wait and see what it turns into. Give it time, let it breathe. I don't have any bags to fill or shill, so I have no dog in the fight. I just want the absolute best product. But to your point, I think the way it'll play out is you just kind of watch the big players, right? So like watch Strike, watch Zebedee, and then I would even say watch Albi. And depending on what those three do, I would say that's probably where the space will head, or the ecosystem will head. So it'll be interesting.
It's still in its early days. So like the quickest, you know, solution that works is the custodial thing, to give people that feeling of it just working seamlessly and with small amounts as well. And I guess you can't really get around that whole thing of like zapping pennies worth of value in anything but a custodial way. So I guess that's a model that's going to be, at least for the foreseeable. So,
yeah, that Albi team is really impressive. Moritz and all those guys. Just seeing them over the course of 3 years, I'm realizing they're really ahead of the way they look at things, and they just work extremely fast, like really fast. I also think Nostra Wallet Connect is another really important project that a lot of people inside the lab constantly tell me about. And it'll be interesting to see how the Prism stuff plays out, because I think that's a whole product on its own, but we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, like when I downloaded the Android app for Wavlake the other day, when you go to boost someone, it either prompts you to open the Lightning wallet on your phone, but to do that every time you just wanted to zap someone, it's quite tiresome. So I think it's good that they've built in Nostr Wallet Connect, because you can just literally hit the button, it zaps, you set your amount and it zaps whoever straight away. You don't have to leave the wallet or anything like that. That's the kind of like UX that people need, I think. Like hopefully like just over time, everything will get abstracted away from the user and it'll just be like one click boost sort of thing.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest realizations for me when I first came into this space and started working in it is I didn't realize how just a lot of these teams are either, cash strapped, Bitcoin's, like they just don't have enough people being able to help them. They have a laundry list of things they need to do. They have a roadmap and everything. They just don't have enough capital to like really deploy out really fast solutions. For me, I always try to show them grace, because it'll take them a lot longer than it would like a Spotify or Tidal team to like do it within a weekend or something.
You look at a guy that's never written a line of code in his life, so I'm not like passing judgment or saying anything like that.
I know you're not.
So it's kind of like
it's like people asking you for your new album, and you're like, "Hey, when is it coming out?"
yeah, exactly. But like I'd love to see the thing for me as well with the value for value ethos is just that you can listen to it for free, but you're encouraged to send something. But it's like, I guess all these different platforms and businesses, like, they're built on protocols, which will be around. But if they, are hosting files and they're serving the data, like they need a workable business model in the long term. So like, would it make sense for them to, build into the app, like presets that saved to say like, right, I'm streaming a song. If I listen to the whole song without skipping it to the next song, surely I found value in that song because I listened to the whole thing, right? If I didn't skip it, I didn't turn it off, I listened to the whole thing. So like, should the app, like as soon as you open it up or as soon as you download it, have like baked in like 21 sats a minute, or like pick your number like as the floor? Okay, you can always go into your settings and turn it off. I don't want to pay anything, or I want to pay when I want to pay. But like, I think the biggest thing maybe might be weaning people off the idea that stuff is free online. Because that's kind of what has got us into the mess that we're in, is people thinking that stuff is free when it isn't, when in fact they're the product, because their data is getting harvested and sold back to them in the form of advertisement. So if we're going to go into like this purely like where you own your own data, but you need to support these projects and these companies, like how are we going to like wean people off that idea of stuff being free and they actually need to give something back for it? I don't know.
No, this is great. Like what else? Yeah, I totally. Yeah, tell me what else. What else should they be focused on?
I don't know. Maybe like I was just thinking about this today. Like maybe, like I said, if you listen to the whole song, it's just taking like 21 sats, 50 sats out a minute of your wallet, or what, like a small amount. And then if you click the like button, so you want to save it to your favorites, if you liked it enough to actually hit like and save it to your favorites, maybe that's another 21 sats. And, that's an optional. You can always go into your settings and disable that. But I think people should be prompted to think, like people that don't get how it all works behind the scenes, people that are just new to it and they download the app, they should just be prompted to think, hey, like, this isn't for free. Someone's having to pay for this. Like, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, it's the education part. So maybe just having presets like that already baked in. I know there's a platform called True Fans. They were called Pod Fans. They've changed the name to True Fans. They're doing a thing where you as the artist can decide what the song's worth or how many sats per minute your song's worth. I mean, it's a cool idea. Like that works on their platform, but then because it's RSS and it's all open, you can listen to that song in another RSS compatible app and not pay. So, there's always workarounds. As soon as it's, RSS, it's technically free. But I think it's a novel idea, and it's just going to be a continuous experiment with all these different platforms to find the sweet spot, to find what works, to kind of abstract the complexity away, but also have something that's prompting people like, this isn't free, you know, because I'm always curious when I speak to like the founders of all these platforms and companies, like where's your revenue coming from in the long term? Because we want these projects to stick around for the long term. As artists, we've got an interest in these platforms. We want them to do well. They want us to do well. We want them to do well. We're all in this together, sort of thing. So how do we make sure that, like, if it is completely optional, whether you send value or not, how do we make it that are they counting on like the few percent that we'll send? I don't know. It's still an open question at the moment, but I just find it interesting to think
That's
about.
really interesting. It you know, I always bring up the past because it kind of informs me of what's going on in the present or in the future. Do you remember when Pandora came out? It might have been in the 2000s. And I think it was a reaction to the whole Napster thing. Even Spotify came out early, just in Europe, primarily alone. That might have been in the 2000s too as well. But what was interesting about those two companies and the different paths they took was, you know, and this was all in response to the a la carte and the free stuff that was out there. But Pandora took the route of placing ads inside of like a play, or just like a radio kind of thing. And then Spotify at the time, I think they took the route of just allowing listen to any type of music, but for a premium price every month. So it would be interesting to see some of these value for value apps where maybe when you log in and you're hitting the playlist and maybe there's an ad that you have to listen to, and then that ad gets zapped to all the artists that are being used in that playlist. You would be in there along with other people whose songs are very popular on those platforms. And then it would be interesting too, as well, is like maybe there's another feature where it's just like you get to, you know, listen to as much as you want from Joe's stuff, from everybody's, and then that's just like all that Bitcoin just gets prismed out to everybody all at once. Or you could do the a la carte thing, and it's just like when you listen to a song, zap it or stream it. So I think there's going to be interesting solutions and different, I don't want to call them plans because they're not plans, but just different comparative products, I guess.
Yeah. I was speaking to Sam Sethi at True Fans, and he was telling me about that he was saying that advertisers that he's talked to seem really interested in the value for value idea from the perspective of like flipping the wallet around so that the listeners are getting paid to listen to the advert from them. They find that really interesting because surely that's going to change the way advertising is done. Anyway, I mean, now that it's possible, like for the longest time, people's attention has been a proxy for currency, as Gigi says, and attention's a really shitty proxy for currency. So if you can actually pay people to listen to or engage with your advert, like I think that's going to be a whole new paradigm as well. But no, I agree. Maybe these platforms will have to have some level of advertising. Wait and see, or it might just be completely kept afloat by, you know, generous listeners who want to give value back. Only time will tell.
It's fascinating too, because when I look at like I do Thriller part-time just in my spare time and stuff. But what I look at is if you're an advertiser, why would you not go after the people that are making 50 to 100 to 1 million sats per month? Like, why wouldn't you go to that publishing company? It's clearly obvious, like those people are paying to listen to something that they get for free. So those are the people you want to advertise to, not the people who are just spamming to RSS feeds and they get, 10,000 listens. But when you look at their actual, the zaps, it's like less than whatever, like 10,000. It's like no one's going to pay for their stuff. I don't know. I find that really weird.
I don't know why. I don't know. I think when you're in it, it seems like it's taking a long time to catch on.
Yeah.
But it's only been a few years. Like we're still so early. But it's
like somebody like you. Okay. So let me give you, let me kind of express it your way now. You have been zapped. I don't know how much, whatever the amount is, right? Clearly you're an artist that you could make money from or whatever. So labels should come to you and be like, Joe, let's invest in you and let's like do this like for real. What do you need? Let's get you well capitalized. Let's do this on the road, all that kind of stuff. Because you proved that you can make money on your own. Like to me, it's like the most obvious choice. Like it's close. Like if I'm trying to release a music product or something, who am I going to go to? I'm going to go to Joe and be like, Joe, how much do I need to pay you for you to advertise my music product? Like, I don't know. Does that make sense? Or is it just kind of, it's weird?
Yeah, it does. And I think as well, like the idea of value for value is just so simple, a concept, and it's not really that sexy because it's just so, it's like, oh, I create good art or, and if you like it, you send me value back. That's it. Like, it's quite simple, really. And I think a problem is it's been maybe in the general public's mind, if they hear, oh, you're sending Bitcoin through this, they've got this whole like NFT shitcoinery thing being mixed in with it, which is a real problem because it's just completely not anything remotely to do with that. I've sort of brushed past artists in the wild out there that have done an NFT thing or have talked about NFTs, and I'm like, what are you doing? I like to think that it's not malice in any way, that they're just like don't know the difference. And like artists are struggling. Like we're always trying to find ways to like try new things and like find different revenue streams and that kind of thing. But it's just like trying to explain to the average person that this is just like a completely voluntary thing, and it's just an easier and more superior way to get paid by people, like if they value what you do. And like it's so simple, but and people get it when you explain it to them, but it's not that flash or not that sexy or anything,
Yeah.
Maybe that's part of it.
I think once somebody puts the metrics behind it, because guys, we love numbers, and so I think once somebody puts the metrics behind all this and they start seeing how much these podcasts are actually making behind the scenes with the zaps and how much people like yourself are making behind the scenes, they'll start realizing, oh wow, these people are actually valuable as far as like putting my advertisement in front of their audience, because those are the people that already have shown they will pay. And so they'll probably pay for my product as well. It's just so painfully obvious, but I think you're right. I think they'll have to catch up, and then it'll be like, duh.
Yeah, hopefully it'll be obvious in the next few years.
Yeah.
But I'm looking forward to a kind of like different signal being brought back to music charts, and like the Wavlake charts are very like basic example of the top 40 of like like finding the signal through with a load of tracks being uploaded to a platform, what people are listening to, what they're getting value from, what they're liking, and it's just like it's so much better than a like or a share when you're attaching like economic value to a signal. It's just going to be really great to see how that changes things. And as well, like I'm excited at the idea of, you mentioned it before, like prisms or splits, or if I make a playlist, a really hot playlist that everyone loves, and I share it and people go crazy for it and they're zapping all the artists on there, that maybe I get like 5% or 1% of all those sats because I put the playlist together and people found value in that playlist as well. It's just like, I don't know, there's so much, so much you could do.
It's gonna be so great. I can't wait. Cool. We're coming up to the top of the hour, so I don't want to take up too much of your time, but let's run through rapid fire. I got like 3 questions, just really quick, and then they're gonna be really fast. So you don't have to answer fast, but just favorite album of all time.
Sorry?
Favorite album of all time.
Favorite album of all time.
It's a hard one, I'm sure.
How do you answer that? I'd say Rubber Soul, the Beatles.
Wow, really? Interesting. Yeah. Why not Abbey Road or Sgt. Pepper's?
I don't know. It just brings back, maybe it's a nostalgia thing. Like I used to listen to that album in the car growing up as a kid so much. And it just, whenever I listen to it, it just makes me feel great. Like brings back some great memories. So.
Yeah. Revolver was also good too. Yeah.
Well, they're all great.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, they're all great. Yeah. Who was your favorite Beatle?
I'd say George Harrison.
Yeah, totally right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you see the Get Back documentary?
I did, yeah. It was at the Disney one.
Yeah, the Disney one.
Yeah, it's great.
Was there anything that stood out to you that you were just like completely shocked by?
Well, it kind of showed how much McCartney dominated everything, especially at the start, and he pissed George off so much that he left. I didn't know that he left for like 2 days or whatever. But I guess like they were under such pressure, like having to get an album together in 2 weeks or something ridiculous, that they needed someone just to take charge and be like, "This is what we're doing," sort of thing, to get it done. But no, I thought it was really well done. Was that Peter Jackson that did that?
Yeah, Peter Jackson did that. Yeah.
Really good.
Yeah, it was really good. All right, next question. How do you focus your energy?
How do I focus my energy? I try and pick a goal in the near future or midterm and just be like, right, I've got to be ready for this. I've got to, knuckle down and sort of get my head together for whatever. So what I'm focusing on at the moment is the Madeira conference, getting a set together for that. And there's going to be a lot of new songs in that set. So I need to, get working on that and get that polished. And then shortly after that is my tour. So again, that's the next milestone. So it's kind of like just picking out these milestones and just knowing, working back and knowing what you've got to do day by day.
There's this great documentary I saw last night with Ron Howard. He's like a director. He's been doing it his whole life. And he had this great quote. He goes, "One of the great traps in life is dissipation of energy." He said, "Real power is when you focus your energy and when you apply your purest energy to what it is you're trying to accomplish." I thought that was fascinating because he's had a whole career in Hollywood and been able to avoid all the trappings of it. So,
yeah. And I think as well, like in today's age, there's so many distractions everywhere with, social media and etc. So I think just guarding your time and just being very particular about what you spend your time on is really important. And it's easier said than done because it's just easy to keep checking Twitter and all these different things. So that just takes discipline. And that's easier said than done.
Okay. Last question. Is there any piece of art, any piece of music, any painting, like anything that you wish you would have created, or you're just in awe every time you see it? You're just like, oh, gosh. Is there anything like that? Or is there something that you're trying to do to give you the opposite? Is there something that you're trying to do that will be similar to something like that?
So I won't comment on art because I cannot draw to save my life or paint or anything like that. It's all music related for me. But whenever I hear a really great song, I'm like, man, I wish I'd have written that. That's just like, it doesn't even have to be really complicated or anything, but just a very simple but very powerful idea or line or lyric. But I'd say, like, I don't know, my favorite song ever, one of my favorite songs, if not my favorite song ever, is Which Tall Line Man by Jimmy Webb. So if I was going to say, right, what song do I wish I'd have written? I'd say Which Tall Line Man. Or maybe God Only Knows, Beach Boys.
Oh, wow. Gosh.
But whenever I hear those songs, I'm like, how do you even write that? That's just incredible.
Yeah.
When I fall in love, I know I'll fall to you. Love like a fire that lights up the dark, I know it will be true. You're like an image, vivid in my mind, as sweet as strawberry wine. And like a dream, you came to me at the perfect time. Oh, the words to let you know how I love you so I won't need to find. I'll tell you in due time and ask you to be mine when the time is right. You're the answer to my call, my other to console when you need someone. Any reason to be near you, listen and hear you, to love you and hold on. Oh, the words to let you know how I love you so I won't need to find. I'll tell you in due time and ask you to be mine when the time is right. Oh, every time we say goodbye, I wanna know the reason why it's getting harder every time we do. I wish we could take the moment while we can, 'cause love doesn't have a plan, it's not bound by anything but the words to let you know how I love you so I won't need to find. I'll tell you in due time and ask you to be mine when the time is right. When